been wanting to do this video for a long time, like 10 months, because that's when this news about the Sex and the City creator saying she feels alone originally came out. But I couldn't do it because we were keeping our pregnancy a secret. Shh. But now we've told everyone, hey everybody, we're having a baby. So you can tell whoever you want, though you'll probably tell no one because honestly, who really cares? 10 months ago, I was going for a run and I was listening to a YouTube video about the news that Candace Bushnell, the basically original creator of Sex and the City, the person who Carrie, whatever her last name is in the show, Sarah Jessica Parker's character, that was based off of Candace Bushnell's real life in New York City. She tells the Sunday Times, which I am not subscribing to, so I will admit I have not read the original transcript of all of this, but according to all the people who have made comments about it, she told them that she feels alone because she didn't have kids, subsequently got a divorce, and basically never thought about a family through her 30s and 40s, and now she's 60 and can't have kids. The exact quote that I keep finding online is, when I was in my 30s and 40s, I didn't think about it. Then when I got divorced and I was in my 50s, I started to see the impact of not having children and of truly being alone. I do see that people with children have an anchor in a way that people who have no kids don't. I think there has been some hyperbole to the headlines about Candace Bushnell saying she's all alone and she totally regrets her life and she didn't want to put career over family after all. I actually think, like, reading some of the stuff, she's probably pretty content. She's got like 2 poodles that she posed with, which if poodles are your dog, that's fine. I think they're fine dogs, but the haircuts, just, I can't get over the haircuts. Anyway, Candace Bushnell, I don't think, is crying herself to sleep every night over this. She talks about having lots of fun with her friends still, and I just think if you read the exact quote, it more so is like, I know what it's like to not have anybody around me now, and I didn't really think about this when I was going through my 30s and 40s, just enjoying my career and my friends and my freedom. Now, this video is not about whether you should or should not have kids. I think that's a big decision between you, your spouse, and God. And I would never tell somebody that your life is not complete unless you have kids. And God knows there are plenty of people out there, I'm sure we all know at least one, who really should not have had kids at all. You know who I'm talking about. Yes, you do. I'm sure you can think of one. I'll wait. I have way more than one, but that's not what this video is about either. If you know anything about Sex and the City, you'll remember that the entire series was basically about women having it all. They can have a career, maybe they can have kids if they want them, but they don't really have to, and they could just get together and drink martinis every day and be sublimely happy. And that was kind of the message that my generation got from Sex and the City, was sort of like, you know, if you shop enough and you have a job with purpose and you drink enough and you get cool hairstyles and wear really expensive shoes, then somewhere along the line you will definitely find happiness, especially if you have a couple other people around you to do it with. Then all of a sudden the lady who created the series is like, maybe that's not what life is all about. Maybe there's more to life and happiness than cosmos. Which is like, great that you had that awakening, but what about all those people who kind of bought into this idea? The one time I had a couple martinis, I woke up with an insane headache that I will never forget. So I won't be drinking those anyway, no matter how womanly that makes me. Now, my channel is about sort of bucking that conventional ideology anyway, that lots of stuff and ego and materialism and, you know, success from the sort of monetary standpoint is what makes for a great life anyway. I'm obviously standing in front of an Airstream that we're renovating to live in a tiny home, quit my TV news career. Never forget when you wake up every day that your voice matters. That's the hope that I have that I leave behind.
We'll keep hearing yours.
You will be missed.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see the Airstream.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Actually drew a lot of meaning and purpose from it, but it had sort of become like everything to me. And like I heard Candace Bushnell saying in these articles, which again, I did not read the original source material, I really didn't think much about a family. I always thought that maybe someday I would have kids, and at 70 or 80 years old, I'd probably like to have some grandkids, and I didn't want to have Thanksgiving alone, so I never was opposed to children, and I sort of thought like, yeah, eventually I'd have them. But then one day I'm 37, 38 years old and I still haven't had kids, and I didn't do amazing in biology class. That's not true. Just sort of pat on the back. I did get a perfect score on my AP exam in high school, but that was the end of my biology career. I didn't do anything in college, but there is one thing I learned, and that is that there really is a limit to the age where a woman can reproduce. And I was getting to that age. And so here I am training for a marathon, listening to this report about Candace Bushnell, and it just hits me that like, I'm kind of like her. I was sort of focused on my career for basically my entire adult life, and I didn't really focus or put a whole lot of effort into the thought of like what a family means or what it would look like for me or how I wanted to go about that. And you do have to do at least one thing to have kids. I'm going to just assume that since this video is not made for children, that you know what that one thing is. And though my husband and I were well practiced in that, which is also not what this video is about, you have to actually do it in a certain way where you can then get pregnant, and we weren't doing it that way, so we were gonna have to revert course and change things. Okay, past that part, I realized that I didn't want to end up like that, and that I was heading down that course. And again, just to reiterate, there's nothing wrong with being 60 and deciding that you didn't want kids and you're very happy with that, and that's great. But I knew that at 60, if I had not done it, I would have regretted it. And that may not be the same for everybody, but for me, that would have been the case. Now, just prior to this news coming out, I did have lunch with a mentor of mine who gave me sort of a pep talk about having kids, and said that you don't have to necessarily be one of those people who is wearing hairbands and bows all the time and playing with stuffed animals and knitting at church to be somebody who could be a good mother, because I definitely am not that person. I kind of have the vocabulary of a sailor. I'm really straightforward. I don't think that things that cry and scream all the time are very cute. I remember when I was in my 20s and I was at a grocery store checkout, and I saw an article on the front page of some magazine, and it was about having kids. And I turned to the lady next to me and I was like, is it wrong that one of the main reasons that I think I want to have kids someday is so that somebody will take care of me when I get older? And she was kind of like, maybe. But the idea, the modern idea that you have kids for whatever reason people have kids nowadays is exactly that. It's modern. And for hundreds and hundreds of years, people had kids for like help on the farm and exactly that, taking care of them when they got older and passing down the wealth and land and inheritance that they had created to the next generation, and also just participating in something that continues on. I'm not really sure what the main reason is for people to have kids these days. I'm not sure there isn't one that doesn't maybe have some tinge of selfishness to it, though my friends who believe in God would say that it's God's greatest gift, and that there's a divine love that comes into caring for another that you experience when you have a kid. And I can buy into all of that. And again, like I said, I think this is a conversation that people have with their spouse and with God, and not necessarily like you should watch this video and change your mind in the same way that I watched the video about Candace Bushnell and changed my mind. But really, it wasn't totally that article. In fact, it probably wasn't that article at all that, at the end of the day, was the make or break for me deciding to have a kid. It was always something in the back of my mind that I guess I just thought eventually I'd get to, but you don't just eventually get to this unless you're one of those people that probably shouldn't be having kids. Why is it that it turns out it's so easy sometimes for people that like, you're like, you've had enough, honey. It's time to walk away from the buffet table. Those people just keep popping them out. But people like me, we have to like sit down, plan, chart, calendar, research, and do all those. My mom used to talk a lot about growing up at the height of the feminist movement, where she felt really pressured to have a career and kind of leave the whole motherhood thing behind. She became a doctor. She was Phi Beta Kappa in college, first class of women to go to the University of Virginia, kind of the opposite of her mother's generation. And if you ask me, like, what feminism should be, especially in 2020, is women kind of laying off of pressuring each other into really like doing anything, because at the end of the day, you're not God. And if that woman had a conversation with God and God's telling her that she's gonna have 9 kids and bake croissants for the rest of her life, then you know what? Go for it. And if you're someone who's gonna be an attorney and you wanna use your legal skills and your $350,000 of student loan debt to go do what you feel like your calling is, then go for it. And if you wanna do both, or you wanna do a mix of it, or you wanna do handstands for the rest of your life, I really don't care. Did I have a kid because of Candace Bushnell and her potential regret over not having kids? No, but it definitely was a factor in getting me to start thinking hard about what age I'm at and 30 years from now, what I want my life to look like. It's just like the Airstream. You got to invest and put hard work into it if you want to see results, and you can't just sit around and watch life pass you by. Sometimes you got to make decisions, and this was a decision that we made. Now, when I made this decision, after this article kind of jolted me back to reality, I went to my doctor and she said, well, you really better get on this because you are 38. At the time I was 37, but turning 38. And you probably are gonna take a year at least, and we may have to send your husband in for analysis. He's been to war, for God's sakes. Who knows if he even has any sperm left. And so you'll probably be 39 before you ever get pregnant at all. Well, 2 weeks later, we were pregnant, and now we're having a kid in May, which, depending on when you're watching this video, we may have already had the kid, but at the filming of this video, we have about 2 months left, so the clock is ticking, and we hope that you continue to join us for that journey, because life's about to change dramatically. Sex in the City, I guess, did it push me to have kids? Well, I mean, literally speaking, yes, Sex in the City is actually why I am now pregnant, because we lived in a city at the time and we had sex. Anyway, I'm gonna just leave you with that because it turns out the wind is blowing so hard, I'm probably gonna blow it away to the next state over, which would be Idaho. But please subscribe, give us a thumbs up if you like this video, and we'll see you next time.